They said my solar panels were an eyesore. 3 months later, I watched Karen's face turn the same shade as her blazer when the power company's lawyer handed her the lawsuit. $57,000 in damages. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. The day everything changed. My name is Marcus Chen, and I'm a renewable energy engineer. For 15 years, I've designed solar farms, wind turbines, and sustainable power systems for corporations across the country. Ironic, isn't it, that the man who built green energy solutions for Fortune 500 companies couldn't install a simple solar panel array on his own roof? It was April 2024 when I moved into Meadowbrook Estates, a planned community in suburban Colorado. The neighborhood was beautiful, I'll give them that. Manicured lawns, uniform beiged houses with terracotta roofs, and sidewalks so clean you could eat off them. My wife, Jennifer, fell in love with the place immediately. Our daughter, Sophie, who was 7 at the time, was thrilled about the community pool and playground. I should have read the HOA bylaws more carefully. The covenants were 73 pages long, 73 pages of restrictions on everything from fence height to mailbox color. But buried on page 42, subsection 17, paragraph D, was the clause that would change everything. No solar panels, satellite dishes, or exterior modifications visible from the street without prior written approval from the Architectural Review Committee. I didn't think it would be a problem. I'm an engineer. I had designs that could integrate panels seamlessly with the roofline, practically invisible from street level. Plus, Colorado has solar access laws. Primera, a de rights. I was wrong about the not a problem part. 3 weeks after moving in, I submitted my application to install a 6.5 kilowatt solar array. The design was beautiful, if I say so myself. Sleek black panels that matched our roof tiles, positioned on the south-facing slope where they'd be barely visible from the street. The system would cut our electricity bill by 70% and pay for itself in 8 years. The Architectural Review Committee had 30 days to respond. They took Karen Morrison hand-delivered the rejection letter herself. I was in my garage workshop when I heard the doorbell. It was 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I'd been up since 6, working on a prototype microinverter design. When I opened the door, there she stood. Karen was exactly what you'd picture when someone says HOA President. Blonde hair sprayed into an immovable helmet, red designer glasses that probably cost more than my monthly car payment, and a crimson blazer that matched her lipstick. She held a manila folder like it was a court summons. Mr. Chen. Her voice was syrupy sweet, the kind of tone that made your teeth hurt. I'm Karen Morrison, president of the Meadowbrook Estates Homeowners Association. I wanted to personally deliver the committee's decision regarding your solar panel application. She handed me the folder. I opened it. Denied in bold red letters across the top. There must be some mistake, I said, scanning the single-page letter. I followed every guideline. The panels are code compliant, they meet all setback requirements, and Colorado law protects solar access. Karen held up one manicured finger. Mr. Chen, while we appreciate your enthusiasm for alternative energy, the Architectural Review Committee has determined that solar panels would negatively impact the aesthetic uniformity of Meadowbrook Estates. Our community standards exist to protect property values for all residents, but you can barely see them from the street. I have renderings. The decision is final. Her smile never wavered. However, if you'd like to appeal, you may submit a written request to appear before the full HOA board. The next meeting is in 6 weeks. Good day, Mr. Chen. She turned on her heel and walked away, her red blazer blazing like a warning flag. I should have let it go. Filed the appeal, made my case, accepted whatever decision they reached. But I'm stubborn. Jennifer says it's my worst quality. That day, it became my defining characteristic. I filed the appeal that afternoon. 6 weeks later, I sat in the community center's multi-purpose room, facing the 7-member HOA board. Karen sat in the center chair, flanked by her committee like judges at a tribunal. I brought everything: engineering reports, cost-benefit on comparisons to other Colorado HOAs that had approved solar installations, legal precedents from the Colorado Solar Rights Act. I had a 40-slide presentation on my laptop, ready to connect to the projector. Karen didn't even let me open my computer. "Mr. Chen," she said, leaning forward with her hands folded on the table. "We've reviewed your appeal and supporting documentation. While impressive, it doesn't change the fundamental issue. Solar panels compromise the architectural integrity of Meadowbrook Estates. Our responsibility is to the community as a whole, not to individual preferences for experimental technology." Experimental. I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. Solar energy has been mainstream for 20 years. It's not experimental. It's standard practice in sustainable, the board has voted. Karen's smile was sharper now. 423, your appeal is denied. This decision is final and binding under the covenants you signed when purchasing your property. 423. It was that close. I looked at the board members. 3 of them wouldn't meet my eyes. They'd voted for me, probably. The other 4 sat straight-backed, arms crossed. Karen's voting block. What if I installed them anyway? The question came out before I could stop it. The room went silent. Karen's smile transformed into something predatory. "Then you'll be in violation of the covenants." She spoke slowly, savoring each word. "We'll fine you $50 per day until the panels are removed. We'll place a lien on your property. We'll take you to court if necessary." "Mr. Chen, I strongly advise against that course of action." She stood up, signaling the meeting was over. The other board members followed her lead. I drove home in silence, Jennifer's hand on my shoulder. Sophie was asleep in the back seat, clutching her stuffed elephant. My girls. I'd moved them here for a better life, better schools, a safe community. Now I was ready to go to war with that community. "Marcus," Jennifer said softly as we pulled into our driveway, "maybe it's not worth it. We can just pay $3,200 a year in electricity bills." I cut her off. "Watch our carbon footprint balloon. Teach Sophie that bullies win if they have enough people on their side." Jennifer sighed. She knew that tone. She'd been married to me for 12 years. When I got that tone, there was no talking me down. "What are you going to do?" I looked at our house, at the perfect south-facing roof slope, at the streetlights that stayed on 24/7, the community center that blazed with light even when empty, the decorative fountain at the neighborhood entrance that ran constantly. An idea began forming. A terrible, beautiful idea. "I'm going to give them exactly what they asked for," I said. Jennifer looked at me. "I don't like that smile, Marcus." "No solar panels visible from the street," I continued, the plan crystallizing in my mind. "That's what the covenant says." "Right. No exterior modifications visible from the street." "Marcus, what are you planning?" I pulled my phone out and opened the county assessor's website. Started looking at property records for Meadowbrook Estates. Utility easements, service agreements, grid connections. Remember how I said I design power systems for a living? I was grinning now. I could feel it. Well, I'm about to design the most beautiful system of my career. And Karen Morrison is going to wish she'd approved those 6 panels. The next morning, I started making calls. Contractors, suppliers, electrical engineers I'd worked with over the years. By noon, I had a team assembled. By evening, I had a plan. If they wouldn't let me put panels on my roof, I'd put them everywhere else. Have you ever dealt with an HOA that made your life miserable? Drop a comment below and let me know what happened. Trust me, this story gets even better. 3 days later, the first delivery arrived. A flatbed truck carrying 240 solar panels pulled up to my house at 7 in the morning. Karen happened to be power walking past with her morning coffee. The look on her face when the driver asked where I wanted them unloaded, priceless. But she had no idea what was coming next. None of them did. Karen was at my door within an hour of the delivery. I was directing the placement of the solar panels in my backyard when I heard her voice cutting through the morning air like a chainsaw through butter. "Mr. Chen, Mr. Chen." I turned to see her marching across my lawn, red blazer billowing behind her like a superhero cape. Except she was no hero. Her face was flushed, matching her glasses perfectly, and she was waving a copy of the HOA covenants like it was a weapon. "Good morning, Karen," I said pleasantly. Beautiful day, isn't it? Don't you good morning me. She thrust the covenant document at my chest. What do you think you're doing? You were explicitly denied permission to install solar panels. I smiled. It was the smile Jennifer had warned me about. I'm not installing them on my roof, Karen. They're going in my backyard. Private property. No street visibility. Completely within my rights. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She looked at the panels, then at me, then back at the panels. You can't. Can't what? The covenant specifically prohibits modifications visible from the street. My backyard isn't visible from the street. It's enclosed by a 6-foot privacy fence. Would you like to read the relevant clause? I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot I'd prepared. Page 42, subsection 17, paragraph D. The exact wording she'd used to deny my application. Her face went from red to purple. This is not what the covenant intended. Then perhaps the covenant should have been more specific. I gestured to the delivery driver. Excuse me, Karen. I have work to do. She stood there sputtering for another 30 seconds before storming off. I watched her go, then turned back to my project. The 240 panels were just the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, my property transformed into a renewable energy research facility. I installed the panels on ground mounts in the backyard, angled for optimal sun exposure. Each panel was 350 watts, giving me a total capacity of 84 kilowatts. That's roughly 13 times what a typical home needs. But I wasn't building a typical system. I installed a battery bank in my garage. 48 deep-cycle lithium batteries, each capable of storing 5 kilowatt total storage capacity. 240 kilowatt, enough to run my house for 2 weeks without any solar input. Then came the smart inverters, the charge controllers, the monitoring systems. I networked everything together, creating a system that could automatically balance load, optimize charging cycles, and even sell excess power back to the grid. The electrician I hired, Tom, had worked with me on 3 commercial projects. He looked at my plans and whistled low. Marcus, this is overkill for a residential setup. You planning to power the whole neighborhood? Just my house, Tom. Just my house. But that was a lie. I had bigger plans. Much bigger plans. Karen visited twice more during construction. The first time, she brought her husband, Gerald, a soft-spoken man who looked perpetually exhausted. He took one look at my setup and said, "Honey, I think he's allowed to do this." Karen nearly took his head off. Whose side are you on? The second visit, she brought the HOA's lawyer, a weaselly man named Preston Sykes, who charged $300 an hour to tell people they couldn't paint their mailboxes the wrong shade of black. Preston reviewed my permits, inspected the installation, and measured the sight lines from the street. After 45 minutes of scrutiny, he turned to Karen and shook his head. He's not in violation. Everything is properly permitted with the county. The panels aren't visible from any public right-of-way. There's nothing we can do. Karen's expression could have curdled milk. There has to be something. He's making a mockery of this community. Then perhaps you should have written better covenants, Preston said dryly. He handed me his card. Mr. Chen, if they try to find you, call me. I suspect you'll need representation. I liked Preston after that. The system went live on June 15th, 2024. It was a Saturday. Crystal clear skies. Perfect conditions. I threw the main breaker at 10 in the morning, disconnecting my house from the grid. For the first time in my life, I was energy independent. The monitoring system showed everything in real time on my laptop. Solar production, 72 home consumption, 3.2 kilowatts. Battery charging, 68.8 kilowatts. Efficiency, 97%. It was beautiful. Jennifer came out to the garage where I was watching the numbers. So we're really doing this. We're off the grid. We're off the grid, I confirmed. Our electricity bill just went to 0. She smiled and kissed my cheek. I'm proud of you. You fought the system and won. Oh, I haven't won yet, I said. This is just phase 1. She pulled back. Phase 1. Marcus, what are you planning? I showed her the spreadsheet I'd been working on, electrical consumption data for every house in Meadowbrook Estates. I'd filed public records requests with the power company, citing Colorado's renewable energy disclosure laws. It had taken 6 weeks and $200 in processing fees. But I had the data. The community center uses 42,000 kilowatt hours per month, I explained. The streetlights use 18,000. The pool filtration system uses 11,000. The decorative fountain that Karen insisted we installed last year, 16,000 kilowatt hours annually. Just for ambience. Jennifer was starting to understand. You're going to power the community infrastructure. Better. I pulled up another document. I'm going to offer to power it for free. For free. Well, not exactly free. In exchange for the HOA dropping all aesthetic restrictions on solar installations. Her eyes went wide. Karen will never agree to that. Then the HOA can keep paying $3,700 per month in electricity bills. Forever. While I sit here with my $0 electric bill and smile, I sent the proposal to the HOA board on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, Karen had responded. The email was 2,000 words long. I'll spare you most of it. The key phrases were absurd grandstanding, unrealistic demands, attempting to hold the community hostage, and my personal favorite, juvenile revenge fantasy. She rejected the proposal unanimously on behalf of the board. Didn't even put it to a vote. That was fine. I had a backup plan. On Tuesday, I filed for a permit to expand my solar array. Not on my property this time. On the vacant lot adjacent to Meadowbrook Estates. The lot was 2 acres of scrubland that the developer had never built on. According to county records, it was owned by a holding company. According to my research, that holding company was in bankruptcy. According to my phone call with a bankruptcy trustee, they were very interested in selling the lot. I bought it for $87,000. Cash. Savings I'd been keeping for Sophie's college fund. Jennifer nearly divorced me when I told her, "You spent our daughter's education money on dirt." I spent it on an investment. I corrected. Trust me. Please. She did trust me. That's the thing about 12 years of marriage. Sometimes trust is all you have. The permit was approved in 6 days. Colorado loves renewable energy projects. I hired a commercial solar installation company, the same one I designed systems for over the years. They owed me favors. We broke ground on July 1st. By July 20th, we had installed 650 solar panels on the vacant lot. Total capacity, 227 kilowatts. Battery storage, 800 kilowatters. It was a solar farm. A small one, but legitimate, and it was right next to Meadowbrook Estates. Karen's reaction was nuclear. She showed up at the construction site with 2 police officers, screaming about illegal construction, unauthorized access, trespassing. The officers looked at my permits, looked at air, and informed her that I owned the property, and everything was legal. She tried to get the county to revoke my permits. The county told her, 2-pound sand. Colorado's renewable energy mandate meant they were required to fast-track solar projects. She tried to organize a protest. 12 residents showed up. 5 of them were there to support me. They'd been trying to install solar panels for years, and Karen had blocked every single application. By August 1st, my solar farm was operational. Total generating capacity between my home system and the commercial array, 311 kilowatts. Total storage, over 1 megawatt hour. I was now generating enough electricity to power 50 homes. That's when I made my second offer to the HOA. This time, I didn't ask them to drop the solar panel restrictions. I simply offered to sell them electricity at 25% below the grid rate. A 5-year contract. Fixed pricing. No rate increases. Clean energy. I CC'd every resident in the neighborhood on the email. The response was immediate. 73 homeowners replied within 24 hours. 62 of them supported the proposal. They were tired of rising electricity costs. They liked the idea of clean energy, and more than a few of them were tired of Karen. Karen called an emergency HOA board meeting. This time, I was invited to present my proposal in person. The community center was packed. Every seat filled. People standing along the walls. I'd never seen this kind of turnout for an HOA meeting. Karen sat at the head table, her red blazer looking slightly wilted. The other 6 board members looked uncomfortable. They could feel the mood in the room. I kept my presentation simple. 10 slides. Cost savings, environmental benefits, energy independence. I showed them what their bills could look like. I showed them projections for the next 10 years. When I finished, Karen didn't even try to argue. She put it to a vote. The board voted 5-2 in favor. Karen and 1 other member dissented. The contract was signed 3 days later. Meadowbrook Estates would buy power from my solar farm for the next 5 years. I would provide electricity for the community center, streetlights, pool, and all common area infrastructure. Total value, approximately $220,000 over 5 years. I'd spent $167,000 building the systems. I'd break even in less than 4 years and profit for the remainder of the contract. Plus, I still had excess capacity to sell back to the main grid. Karen Morrison had made me a very successful solar energy entrepreneur. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close, because while I'd been building my solar farm, I'd been studying something else. The HOA's finances, they were public record, available to any homeowner who requested them, and what I found was very, very interesting. The HOA financial records sat on my desk like a ticking bomb. It was late September, 3 months after my solar farm went online. Sophie was asleep upstairs. Jennifer was reading in bed, and I was in my home office, staring at spreadsheets that refused to make sense. Every homeowner in Meadowbrook Estates paid $750 per year in HOA dues. There were 237 homes in the community. Simple mathematics. $177,750 annually. The HOA's public financial statements showed expenses of $163,000 per year. Landscaping, insurance, legal fees, utilities, pool maintenance, everything itemized, professional, clean. But something felt wrong. The numbers were too neat, too perfect. I started cross-referencing vendors. The landscaping contract was with Green Meadow Services LLC for $42,000 annually. I called them. They'd never heard of Meadowbrook Estates. The pool maintenance contract was with Aquatech Solutions for $18,000 per year. I drove to their listed address. It was a UPS store mailbox. Just a mailbox. The legal retainer with Preston Sykes was listed at $12,000 annually. I called Preston directly. Hey, Luhed. Karen pays me maybe $2,000 a year. Marcus, where'd you get 12? I spent 2 weeks following the money trail. Every vendor, every contract, every line item, cross-checking addresses, calling phone numbers, visiting physical locations. $67,000 per year was going to shell companies, fake vendors with real bank accounts. The contracts looked legitimate, professional letterhead and everything, but the services were never actually performed, and every single shell company traced back to one person. Karen Morrison. She'd been embezzling from the HOA for 6 years. Total amount stolen, approximately $402,000. Almost $500,000, taken from families who trusted her. I sat back in my chair, mind racing. This was massive. This was criminal. This was exactly the ammunition I needed. But I had to be smart. Karen was vindictive, connected. If I confronted her wrong, she'd destroy evidence and lawyer up. I called Preston Sykes the next morning. Preston, I need your legal advice on a sensitive matter. Confidentially, we met at a coffee shop downtown, away from it. I showed him everything. The shell companies, the fake contracts, the bank routing numbers, the timeline. Preston went pale as he read through the documentation. Marcus, this is serious embezzlement, potentially wire fraud. You need to report this to the police immediately. I will, I said. But first, I want to give Karen a choice, a way out. What kind of choice? She resigns from the board, repays the money, and drops all opposition to solar panel installations. Or I go to the police and she goes to prison. Preston was quiet for a long moment, stirring his coffee. That's blackmail, Marcus. That's offering her a chance to make things right before I fulfill my legal obligation to report a crime. There's a difference. He smiled slightly. You're not wrong, but be very careful. Cornered animals bite. She won't go down quietly. I scheduled a private meeting with Karen. Just the two of us, at the community center. Thursday evening, after hours. She agreed immediately, probably thinking she could intimidate me one more time. She was very wrong. I arrived at exactly 7 o'clock. Karen was already there, sitting at the board table in her signature red blazer. She looked confident, powerful, completely in control of her domain. Mr. Chen, she said with that syrupy sweet voice I'd grown to hate. What's so urgent that you needed a private meeting? I sat down across from her and slid a manila folder across the polished table. The exact same kind of folder she'd used to deliver my solar panel rejection 6 months ago. The symbolism was intentional. Open it. She did. I watched her face carefully as she read. The confidence drained away like water from a broken dam. Color rose in her cheeks, then drained completely. Her hands started shaking, actually trembling as she held the papers. Where did you? How did you? She couldn't finish the sentence. Her voice had lost all its sweetness. Public records, mostly. A little detective work. Some phone calls. I leaned forward. 6 years. Karen. $402,000. Green Meadow Services, Aquatech Solutions, 12 other companies that don't actually exist, all routing payments back to accounts you control. She tried to rally, to find her usual authority. This is ridiculous. These are all legitimate vendors. I called every single one. I visited their addresses. I traced the bank accounts through 3 layers of shell corporations. I kept my voice level, professional. You're embezzling from the HOA. It's fraud. It's theft. And I have enough documentation to send you to prison for 10 to 15 years minimum. Karen's face went gray. She looked like she might vomit. What? What? What do you want? I want you to resign from the board. Today, effective immediately. She nodded slowly, processing. Tate. Iti. No. No. You're going to repay every single dollar you stole. $402,000. You have 90 days to return the funds to the HOA account. Not 89 days. Not 91. 90. I don't have that kind of money. Panic crept into her voice. Sell your luxury car, remortgage your house, get a loan from family. I genuinely don't care how you do it. I pulled out another document. You're also going to sign this letter today, right? Now. It rescinds all aesthetic restrictions on solar panel installations. Every homeowner in Meadowbrook Estates can install solar panels without HOA approval or interference. Karen stared at the letter like it was a poisonous snake. You can't force me to. I can't force you to do anything, Karen. You have free will. You have a choice. I tapped the folder. Sign the letter, re-sign, and repay the money. Or I walk to my car, drive straight to the police station, and hand them this evidence. Then you spend the next decade in an orange jumpsuit. Your choice. Completely your choice. The silence stretched out. I could hear the clock on the wall ticking. Karen's breathing was ragged, panicked. A bead of sweat ran down her temple. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was barely a whisper. If I do this, you won't go to the police. If you do all of this, and you repay every single dollar within 90 days, I won't report you. But if you miss even one payment, if you try to reverse the solar panel decision, if you cause me or anyone else any more problems, this folder goes straight to the district attorney. No second chances. No negotiations. Understood? She nodded slowly. Defeated. Her hand trembled as she picked up the pen I'd brought. She signed the resignation letter first, then the solar panel policy change. Her signature was barely legible. Shaky. 90 days, I reminded her as I stood. $402,000. Don't forget. I left her sitting there at the table, broken and defeated. The red blazer looked dull and faded under the harsh fluorescent lights. The next morning, Karen's resignation was official. The board appointed Gerald Thompson, a retired accountant who'd always voted against Karen's schemes, as interim president. His very first act was commissioning an independent audit of all HOA finances. The solar panel restriction was lifted immediately. Within 2 weeks, 7 homeowners submitted applications. Within a month, 15 homes had panels installed or in progress. Karen kept a low profile. I didn't see her at community events anymore. Her morning power walk stopped completely. Word quietly spread that she'd put her house on the market. Then, on day 73 of her 90-day deadline, something completely unexpected happened. A black SUV with government plates pulled up to my house. 2 people got out. One was a woman in a dark suit, carrying a briefcase. The other wore an FBI windbreaker. My heart stopped. "Mr. Marcus Chen?" the woman in the dark suit asked. "Yes." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "I'm Agent Sarah Morrison, FBI Financial Crimes Division. This is Agent Rodriguez. We'd like to ask you some questions about Meadowbrook Estates HOA. May we come in?" I invited them in. Jennifer appeared from the kitchen, eyes wide. She gripped my hand as we sat in the living room. Agent Morrison opened her briefcase and pulled out a tablet. "Mr. Chen, we've been investigating financial irregularities in HOAs across Colorado. Your name came up. Can you tell us what you know?" I told them everything. The shell companies, the fake vendors, Karen's embezzlement. I showed them my research, the spreadsheets, the documentation. Agent Morrison took detailed notes. "This is excellent work, Barry Torah. But why didn't you report this to police immediately?" I took a deep breath. I confronted Karen directly. Gave her a choice. Resign, repay the money, lift the solar restrictions, or I'd go to authorities. She resigned. Was that wrong? Agent Rodriguez smiled slightly. Not illegal, though we'd have preferred you came to us first. But I understand. He paused. "Mr. Chen, Kara Morrison has been under federal investigation for 8 months. She's not just embezzling from your HOA." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Agent Morrison leaned forward. "She's running the same scheme in 4 other communities across Colorado. Total estimated theft, over $2 million. $2 million. She's been doing this for 12 years. Meadowbrook was one of her smaller operations. She was president or treasurer of 5 different HOAs simultaneously. Same pattern everywhere. Shell companies, fake vendors, inflated contracts." Jennifer's grip tightened, so Marcus accidentally helped catch her. Agent Morrison smiled. "His documentation is excellent. It fills gaps in our case." "The confrontation you had, Mr. Chen, was actually helpful. We had surveillance on her house. We recorded her making panicked phone calls after your meeting, trying to move money, contacting accomplices. It gave us additional evidence." I asked, "That's part of an ongoing investigation." But Karen wasn't working alone. She had helped setting up the shell corporations, laundering the money. "We're building cases against 3 others. They asked more questions, took copies of my documentation, thanked me for cooperation. As they left, Agent Morrison handed me her card. "You'll be called as a witness at trial. We'll be in touch." And Mr. Chen, "Thank you. What you did took courage." After they left, I sat stunned. Jennifer put her arm around me. "You accidentally helped catch a major criminal," she said, laughing despite the seriousness. "I just wanted to install solar panels." Primera Said Weekly. Se lo give. Only you could turn a fight about solar panels into a federal case. 3 days later, Karen Morrison was arrested. I watched from my window. 6 FBI agents, 3 cars, tactical gear. They led her out in handcuffs. She wasn't wearing her red blazer. just sweatpants and a t-shirt. She looked small, defeated. The local news picked it up that afternoon. Former HOA president charged with wire fraud, embezzlement, money laundering. The reporter explained how Karen had stolen from 5 communities, over $2 million, spanning 12 years. My phone exploded with messages. Neighbors, friends, people from other HOAs Karen had victimized. Everyone wanted the story. Gerald Thompson called that evening. "Marcus, on behalf of the board and every resident, thank you. If you hadn't been stubborn about those solar panels, if you hadn't dug into the finances, we might never have discovered this. She could have kept stealing for years. I just wanted to power my house. Gerald, you did more than that. You saved this community. You saved 5 communities." The trial was scheduled for March. The prosecution's case was airtight. Karen's lawyers tried desperately to negotiate a plea deal, but the DA wasn't interested. She'd stolen too much, hurt too many families. Meanwhile, Meadowbrook Estates transformed. With solar restrictions lifted, the neighborhood experienced a green energy revolution. 43 homes installed panels within 6 months. By year's end, over 60% of the community was solar. One expanded my solar farm, adding another 400 panels and doubling battery storage. My revenge project had evolved into a legitimate renewable energy business. I was generating over 600 kilowatts, selling to Meadowbrook, to neighboring communities, and the main grid. Annual revenue approaching $400,000. Sophie's college fund was tripled. We were planning a house addition. Jennifer talked about early retirement, but the sweetest moment came in March. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified on day 7, walking the jury through my investigation, showing the shell companies, explaining how I'd traced the money. Karen's lawyer tried to discredit me, suggesting I had a vendetta. The prosecutor shut that down. Mr. Chen discovered criminal activity and reported it to federal authorities. That's called being a good citizen, not having a vendetta. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts: wire fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, conspiracy. Sentencing was 2 weeks later. I sat with Jennifer, watching Karen stand before the judge. She'd lost weight. Her blonde hair showed gray roots. She looked nothing like the powerful HOA president who'd once ruled Meadow. The judge asked if she had anything to say. Karen stood slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. I made terrible mistakes. I hurt people who trusted me. I betrayed communities. I have no excuses. What I did was wrong. I'm deeply sorry." The judge was unmoved. "Mrs. Morrison, you held positions of trust in 5 communities. You were elected to protect their interests. Instead, you systematically stole from them for over a decade. You showed no remorse until caught. You destroyed trust in community governance." She paused. "I sentence you to 15 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years supervised release. You will pay full restitution totaling $2,147,000. You will surrender all assets." Court adjourned. 15 years. Karen would be 72 when released. As bailiffs led her away, Karen looked back. Our eyes met. No anger in her expression. No defiance. Just acceptance. She nodded slightly. I nodded back. It was over. Outside, reporters swarmed us. Cameras, microphones, questions from every direction. "Mr. Chen, how does it feel to have brought down a criminal who stole millions?" "I just wanted to install solar panels on my roof. Everything else happened because Karen Morrison chose to commit crimes rather than let me do that." "What's next for your solar business?" I smiled. "We're expanding. 3 more communities have contacted me. I'm hiring staff, buying land, installing panels." Karen tried to stop sustainable energy. Instead, she launched a movement. "Do you feel vindicated?" "I feel relieved. Justice was served. Communities will be repaid, and people can now power their homes sustainably without HOA interference." That's all I wanted. 6 months later, life was amazing. My solar company, Chen Renewable Energy, was thriving. We employed 12 people, operated 3 solar farms, served 8 communities. Annual revenue exceeded $1 million. I'd been featured in renewable energy magazines, interviewed on podcasts, invited to speak at conferences. Meadowbrook Estates was transformed. 82 homes had solar panels. Community electricity costs dropped 47%. Property values increased. The neighborhood won environmental sustainability awards. Gerald Thompson remained president, elected unanimously 3 times. His administration was transparent, honest. Monthly financial reports posted online. Every contract vetted. Every vendor verified. Karen Morrison was in federal prison, serving 15 years. I didn't think about her much anymore. The anger had faded, replaced by pity. She'd had power, respect, trust. She'd thrown it all away. One sunny Saturday, I stood in my backyard, looking at my original solar array, the 240 panels that started everything. Sophie played on the swing set. Jennifer Reed in a lounge chair. "Dad!" Sophie called. "Push me higher!" I walked over and pushed her swing. She squealed with delight. "You know what, Sophie? Sometimes when people try to stop you from doing the right thing, you find another way. And sometimes that other way turns out even better than you originally planned." She looked back, confused. "What do you mean?" "I'll tell you when you're older," I said, smiling. Jennifer walked over, arm around my waist. "No regrets." "About what?" "An of Italiano. Te. Fight." The investigation. Everything. I looked at our house, powered by the sun. At our daughter, playing carefree. At my wife, happy and proud. At the neighborhood, transformed by sustainable energy. "Not a single one," I said. "Not one regret." Karen Morrison tried to stop me from installing 6 solar panels. In response, I built an empire, exposed a criminal, and launched a renewable energy revolution. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success. 3 years after Karen's sentencing, Meadowbrook Estates became the first fully solar-powered HOA community in Colorado. Every home, every streetlight, every community facility ran on renewable energy from Chen Renewable Energy. Marcus Chen's company now operates in 17 states, employing over 200 people, generating enough clean energy to power 15,000 homes annually. The Karen Morrison case became a landmark prosecution, leading to federal legislation requiring independent audits of all HOA finances nationwide. As for the solar panels that started it all, they're still running, still generating power, still proving that sometimes the smallest act of defiance can change everything.